Good afternoon. I've got some new updates for you regarding House Bill 4145. We just had a change in OLIS, and so let's talk about what this means for us. I'm going to get everything booted up, and we'll start kind of talking about things to look out for. The session is still active. Things are going to move extremely fast, so we've got to really be part of this process. And we're in good shape, believe it or not, and it's just going to take time, and hopefully we can just put the pressure that we need to put into making this stuff go away. And so I'm going to get everything queued up, and we'll kind of start talking about what this all means. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. So I hope everybody had a good weekend. This is not what I wanted to deal with today, but just the way things are working. So let's kind of talk about it. And so what it looks like. So House Bill 4145, basically Measure 114 on steroids. It was just scheduled for a work session on 411, or excuse me, 211. Excuse me, 211 at 3 p.m. Hearing room B. Okay. So what that means is it's going in front of the House Committee on the Judiciary. So that was where we had the public hearing on the 2nd. And so what they're going to do here is they are going to vote on this bill, and then they're going to send this either probably with a fiscal, it's probably going to have to go to Ways and Means, or it could go to the House floor for the vote. And so what they're going to try to do is get it out of this chamber onto the Senate side. And so that's where we have to just be paying attention to what's happening. They just had it was the public hearing on Senate Bill 1599, which that is the tax bill. They got shellacked in that hearing. It's literally 2,800 in opposition testimony. It's the most unpopular bill that we have in the Oregon legislature, besides the one that we're fighting right now. And so what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to use House Bill 4145 as leverage to push the tax bill through. Mark my words. Okay. That's what they're going to do. This is all by design. I was talking to a friend earlier. We're talking about the tax bill. I said, hey, you just wait. As soon as there's any movement on the tax bill, what they're going to do is they're going to schedule 4145 because it's all smoke and mirrors. It's all distraction. What they're going to do, and they're going to try to get the Republicans to play along, is they'll say, we'll kill House Bill 4145 in committee, no matter what committee it is, if you, play nice with us and allow us to move the tax bill to May. Okay, for the May, the primary. And so as a gun owner, I'm like, nope, we're not going to move that bill. That bill needs to stay where it is. There was 260,000 Oregonians that, signed the petition to get that thing on the ballot, and needs to stay in November because that's when they're going to pay the most political price for that. Okay, so you have to see the big picture here. This is what's happening is they are, basically it's 3-card money. They had to keep these shells going. They got to keep us distracted. And so they did the tax thing. The tax didn't go the way they wanted to go. So now let's talk about guns now. So let's get the people focusing on the guns so we can do all the stuff behind the scenes on the tax bill. So that's where you guys have to see, truly what they're trying to do here. And I'm not seeing any comments. If you guys are here and seeing this, if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat. And so just something to think about. This is the way this process is designed to work. So it's going to get a work session. Most likely, it could get a vote that day, depending if they have, the votes there. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it, man. And so that's kind of where we're at. This thing is going to move extremely fast. And the reason it's going to move fast because they do not have the time. They have maybe 2 weeks left in the session. Oh, thanks for tuning in from K Falls. I appreciate that. And so, everybody's hair's on fire up there. And so that's where we have to be very deliberate with our actions right now. Okay. So here is my plan. And I'm going to throw it by you guys, see what you think. So we have a public hearing, or we had a public hearing on February 2nd, and that's where Tony Aiello were up there and I were up there, and that's where we did all this stuff behind the scenes to, get a meeting with Krupp. We had a good really a good meeting. I think it went the way as good as we could expect it. And so with this, I started laying the seeds with all of the people that are on his committee that this is bad for their constituents. So my goal here now, and the next step is I'm going to provide all the email addresses. I'm going to provide some talking points for you guys to look at. And what I would love for you guys to do is fire off a very nice, diplomatic email to these two members, because if he doesn't have the votes to pass this out of committee, this thing dies in committee. Okay. There's enough privacy issues that I raised with them when it comes to the FBI having our fingerprints, not giving those fingerprints back. So it's a privacy issue for us. Also, people on the other side, that's something we align with. Also the fee, right? Raising the fee from $65 to $150. That prices a lot of people out of this permit to purchase process. Okay. So, and I feel that there's two, and I'll put all the information. So it's to be Rep Tran and Rep Chaichi. Those are two that are on the committee that were sympathetic, right? And I had really good meetings with their staff. I had follow-up emails with their staff. They're definitely paying attention to this situation. Okay. So this is Jason Krupp going on his own and trying to spearhead this. It is unpopular in his own party with the Ceasefire Oregon crowd, and also the people that would typically side with him in this situation. He jumped the shark, and so this is where this is something that we have to capitalize on. So let's talk about what this means for us. And so should be House Bill 4145. So the things that I would like to focus on, and I can put that in the comments so you can kind of see my talking points for them. And so you can kind of make your own argument. But I talked about obviously the privacy issues. There's people in our state that do not want the FBI to know who they are and where they live. Okay. And so obviously they're fighting with ICE right now to protect the privacy of these citizens in Oregon. And so that's where I kind of had these talking points that kind of align with that, because as a gun owner, I don't feel comfortable with my fingerprints going to the FBI, and the FBI can just do whatever they want to do with them. They could create a database. They can do all sorts of different things. So that's one thing that we have together that we align on, right? So that's something that I would build goodwill there with Rep Tran and Chaichi there. Because that's something that kind of unifies us, right? And the other one would be the cost. So the cost it raised from 65 to 150. Okay. And so we saw the testimony from Ceasefire Oregon is she, and being on the opposite aisle from us, wants that to go back to 65. So that tells me that they don't have the funding for this program to have this permit to purchase. And so this thing's going to crumble on itself, and so that's where I feel here that the goodwill that we would build to say, obviously it's going to price people that are lower socioeconomics out of their ability to exercise their 2A rights, and there's a couple other points that I mentioned in my talking points, and what I'll do is I'll put it all here in the body of this. So you guys can kind of see, what I propose to them, and then we can just piggyback on that. And so if we can obviously send emails to those two, and what I'm trying to do is peel off support from this bill, right? So I'm trying to drive, this is a wedge issue for us, right? As we drive the wedge between Krupp, Rep Tran, and Rep Chaichi. They both seem like reasonable people, and I feel that if we can split them off from him, they're not going to have the votes to get this thing out of committee. And that would be my hope. And this thing would die in committee. They don't have a lot of extra time. And so the fact that they're scheduling this on February 11th, they have, less than probably 20 days, and that's including the weekend for this session. And so they just had too much going on. And so, but what they're going to try to do is use this bill as leverage. And as gun owners, we can't fall for that. We almost have to plant the flag and say no. And maybe it takes us going up to the Capitol. Maybe it takes us having a big rally. Maybe it takes us, getting those log trucks from a couple years ago, and start doing hot laps around the Capitol building to get these people to finally listen to us, right? They're not listening to us when it comes to the guns. They're not listening to us when it comes to the tax, the gas tax, so there's some things that we have a very broad coalition right now that this is going to cost them, and it's going to cost them politically. And so that's what I'm kind of advocating for today, and that's why I wanted to give this information. So I just got that email less than probably 10 minutes ago, right before I got in here. And so that's something to be aware of, is we still have plays to make, and so we just have to be active. We have to be a part of it. And so I'll try to make it as easy as I can for you, so you guys can be a part of this. And those emails that you send, I mean, you say House Bill 4145, we're sending it to Rep Tran, Rep Chaichi. If you're very diplomatic with the approach, I think it's going to build goodwill. Obviously, we're going to be respectful, because we need their help. We need their vote for them to, side with the Republicans on that panel. So that's kind of where I'm at. So, let's see, I got another comment here. So any update on 114? Okay. So there was something that was in the Oregon Live yesterday, totally inaccurate. I didn't share it. I didn't weigh in on it, because what they're doing is they're banking on March 15th of 2026 being the date that Measure 114 is going to go into effect. It's not going to go into effect on March 15th, 2026. Okay. Everything is enjoined. We are waiting for the Oregon Supreme Court to weigh in. It could be 9 months to a year from November 6th of 2025. Okay. So something to think about is we still have time. So don't let the media is doing everything they can to keep the pressure up to make sure 4145 does get passed. And they don't have the numbers. They don't have the support. Yeah, they might have a super majority, but obviously the moment the governor signs 4145, her signature is going to generate enough attraction that there will be a Republican governor. I guarantee it. They have their days of ruling us are over. They know that. This is their last ditch effort trying to hold on to power. Just please believe. Okay. Just stay positive, stay focused, stay in the fight. And we're going to fight until the Senate sign die. Okay. So that's where we're at. And so no, there's no changes on Measure 114. Okay. So just rest assured, what you saw in the media is complete garbage. They're citing old articles. Yeah. So don't believe that. So, let's see what we got here, Jeff. Yeah, absolutely. Right now. Okay, this is a call to action. What we'll do today is we have 48 hours from 3 o'clock today, or excuse me, 1 o'clock today. So we have 48 hours to submit written opposition testimony to Senate Bill 1599. Okay, so we should be doing that. We should be helping out our neighbors, because we're going to need their help when it comes to the gun bill. Okay, so that's really, really important. Let's run up that number on them. When I checked, it was like at over 2,800. That's when I submitted my testimony. It was like 99% in opposition. This is huge for us. Okay. So let's keep going. Let's keep up that pressure, and I'm hoping that it'll just go away. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to change our attention, our focus. And that's why they're coming back to guns. And so that's where we have to understand, this is a concerted effort to take away your rights, also to circumvent your voice, and they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it in November with us voting them out of office. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at. Let's see this. Yeah. I mean, we need shops. We need FFLs. I mean, the issue is obviously your inventory, being able to not take on a lot of debt to get into business. There's a lot of things that I would be concerned about starting an FFL or SOT in this climate. But I'm not going to discourage you, and so that's kind of where I'm at. So thanks, Hayden, for tuning in, man. I appreciate you, and so No, I appreciate your support, and I have some big news that I'm going to be kind of talking about in the next couple days, and I'm excited to share the news with you and hopefully get your help and your support, and so it'll be about the work that we're currently doing right now, but then making it more official, and so I'm kind of doing a little teaser, but I want you guys to be a part of this project. I think that with the things that I'm envisioning, just from all my work up there and learning this process, I feel that I could definitely change the game here. And so I'm going to be looking for your help, and getting you involved. And so I'll have more on that in the next couple days. So it's a new org that I'm starting, and so we'll have a new website, all this other stuff. There'll be a way for us to fight forward. That's my biggest thing is I always want to fight forward. I don't want to fight from the defense. I'm sick of fighting from a defensive position. I want to go on the attack. I want to write legislation. I want to file lawsuits. I want to do all of these things. And so that's where, having an official org will help me do everything that I need to do on my behalf, also your behalf as well. So that's kind of where I'm at. So just stay up to date, So I'm gonna cut this one short. Just know House Bill 4145 did get scheduled for a work session on February 11th, 3 p.m. It looks like hearing room B, okay, in the Capitol. And so this is when they're going to vote. Okay. So our work from now to then is to hammer that Judiciary Committee. There's 4 people on that group that are kind of squishy, right? Obviously they're Democrats, but I feel that we can rationalize with them, and hopefully we can send enough support in. They see, what we're concerned about. Maybe they can get them to kind of pull their support. That's my goal. And so that's what I'm hoping to do, is just peel them off. If I could get 2, this thing dies. If I can get 2 out of the 5, it goes bye-bye. And then we just practice and we get ready for the next fight, which is coming in the long session. And so, yeah, and so that's kind of where I'm at, and that's just what I'll do is I'll put all the information here so you guys can get it, and you guys can help me out. I'll put the talking points, and these are the talking points I developed for them. And so you'll see I'll have 2 sets. I can have a conservative side, then I also have the left-leaning side. So there's 2 different talking points. You can, what I would recommend is for Chai Chi Tran, Chosen, is we submit the ones that for left talking points, just because it's going to talk about privacy. It's going to talk about the permit to purchase. It's going to talk about the overreach, so I'll put all that in this video so you guys can see it. And then we'll just kind of go from there. And so this one right here, I'd love to have your help, man. So let's touch base, figure out what we can do to work together. Obviously, we need to get more people in off the sidelines, and that's the whole point of this. Is we need to diversify our base and make it bigger, too big to rig, right? So by getting everybody involved, and so that's kind of my goal. And so it just takes time and process, and putting everything together. So I'm going to get off here though. I think I'm going to put all the information here so you guys kind of know, what to look for, what to send these emails, and then let's start sending emails, and hopefully we'll get a response. Be very diplomatic and cool, because you want the staffers to read that and forward it to the committee members, as opposed to just putting it in a spam folder. So be very cool with the way you send these emails. It's an art. So any other questions on there? Yes. No, thanks for tuning in. I enjoy you guys, and I think that if we work together, we can really do this. We can really change Oregon politics. They're not used to this stuff. Okay. They're not used to gun owners, having 2,500, opposition testimonies. They're not used to us showing up in the Capitol. They're not used to this. So when they see us in person, now they can't hide. Okay. They're off their talking points. Okay. We saw that in the public hearing on February 2nd. Is the other side did not have a response to the Oregon gun owner. All they had was suicide prevention. That's all they had. Measure 114 was never about suicide prevention. Okay. That's how bad these people are. And that's where we have to just make sure that we're not going to let them win. Okay. We are going to take our state back, and it's going to be glorious. And obviously it's going to take lots of work. It's going to take us showing up to vote. It's going to take all of us, people signing up and running for office. It's going to take a lot, but I think we're at a tipping point, and they've lost all control. That's why they're throwing everything at us at the last moment. So just stay positive, stay focused, and just stay involved. So I'm gonna get off here. Just appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll put all the information for the people I need you to contact in the body of this, and then we'll just stop them. So thank you. Talk to you guys soon.